Hello everyone, my name is AimAssist and welcome back to the channel. So today I want to go ahead and make an updated ALC settings guide. My last settings video was a little bit short and a lot of people have been asking me recently, bro, what's your settings? So I think it's time that I should make a full settings guide for both PC and console. So there's two separate ALC settings for both. For PC, I have a different ALC settings, and for console, I have a much different ALC settings. And that is because when you move from console to PC or from PC to console, the frame rate really makes a difference when it comes to how you aim, and also the aim assist values differ. So because of that, I wanted to make a compensation guide for all the console players out there. You know, I believe in y'all too, so I support console all the way. So we're gonna go ahead and help both categories out with this video. So with that being said, let's go ahead and head into the firing range. Alright, so we've hopped into the firing range, and I'm going to start with the PC controls first. So if you play a controller on PC, this is going to be the section for you. I like to use these settings. So for PC, I have a scuff controller, and I don't know if you guys can see it, but it's just a normal scuff controller, all blacked out. Nothing too special. Honestly, it kind of sucks. Don't spend your money on a scuff. But it I like the paddles. The paddles are really nice, and it lets me like slide jump a lot easier. So if you can, get paddles. Like, it doesn't matter if they're off-brand or not. You don't have to have a scuff controller, but having paddles just makes your movement a lot better. If you don't have paddles, I do actually have a button layout for you. So before I used paddles, I actually used, my crouch used to be on L1 and my jump was R3. So what this does is that crouching becomes so much easier. When you press L1, you immediately crouch, and when you press R3, you jump. So I haven't used these settings in a very long time, so bear with me. But essentially, you can bunny hop, bounce, do all these things. Having a different button layout makes life easier. You can see that I'm kind of messing up because it's been a long time since I've used these controls. But I think if you don't have paddles, you can make your movement 10 times better by just by switching around your crouch and your jump button. So you don't have to have crouch on L1. That was just my personal preference, is that I found it easier to just slide jump one by pressing R3. But what it does, having jump on R3 does mess you up a little bit, so be mindful of that. If you want, you can just change it around and have crouch on R3 and jump on L1, like bumper jumper, and that would be perfectly normal as well. But this is a good button layout. This button layout helped me improve a ton when I didn't have paddles. So that's the button layout. Alright, so now we're gonna go over the rest of the settings. So a lot of you guys wanted to see what else I used. So this is gonna be in the gameplay section. In my opinion, all of this is preference, except this might be good for you. So crosshair damage is unnecessary. I would use either like none or X, and damage numbers you always want stacking. That way you can just do quick math. So like usually health is going to be out of 200, and if it's a red evo, it's out of 225. So whatever number you get out when you hit the enemy, you just subtract it from 200, and that's what you use for callouts and stuff. So stacking makes life easier. Use stacking. Ping opacity, default faded, doesn't matter. Obituaries doesn't matter. Minimap rotation doesn't matter. Auto cycle off. You want to keep this off. You do not. I've played the game enough to know that when I need to switch weapons, and oftentimes when my weapon empties, I don't want my weapon to switch out, because like if I'm using an R9 and a sentinel, if my R9 runs out of ammo and I'm in a close range fight, I do not want to switch to that sentinel, right? So keep this off. You should know when to switch weapons. Auto sprint, Personal preference, this needs to be on hold. If you play Valk, do not use toggle. Um, all of this is personal preference too. Something that could help you a lot, actually, is colorblind mode. I use Tritanopia, but I've been recently using Deuteranopia as well, and Deuteranopia helps in the storm. So when you use a digi-threat, it basically just turns all your enemies blue. And the screen looks a little bit different too. So, and I think your red Evo turns to gray. Yeah, your red Evo turns to gray. So I just like Tritanopia better because you get a yellow sight. So that's the section. Mouse and keyboard we're not gonna do. We don't play mouse and keyboard. Okay, so these are pretty self-explanatory, and this is the ALC settings. So if you are on PC with a controller, you will notice that these settings have not changed much. I am a firm believer that once you find your settings, they are unnecessary to be changed, because once you feel like you've got a good grasp and you've been practicing on the same settings for months and you switch to something new, it feels really awkward, and I don't like that. So I like consistency, which is why I tend to just use the same settings for at least like 4 to 5 months before I decide, hey, is this working out for me or not? And for the most part, I have not really noticed any issues. So if you like these settings, if you liked my last settings video, then the settings video isn't going to be much except for like extra stuff. I can talk about these settings, so let's talk about the Deadzone. I heard a lot of complaints about stick drift, and I addressed this in the comments, but just to put it in a video, stick drift is gonna be normal, okay? Every single controller is gonna have stick drift, no matter what you do. Unless you buy a brand new controller every single week, it is impossible to get rid of stick drift if you play on 0% Deadzone. And this is essentially giving you complete control of your joystick. So when you turn this up, do you notice how there's this little circle right here? That circle is basically your Deadzone. So what it's saying is that we will ignore your tiny movements, and the bigger you make this Deadzone, we will ignore more movement on your right analog stick. This is more, even more, and it just gets higher and higher. So this is why if you value precision and accuracy over like movement, you can put this on 0, and this will give you the maximum precision and maximum like accuracy potential. But if you really are bothered by stick drift and you don't like having your controller like do extremely slow 360s, then turn this up. 3% should almost get rid of your Deadzone. Not quite, but if you turn it up, like, just turn it up until your Deadzone, like, until your controller stops moving. So for me, it's at 5%, and that's when my stick drift goes away. So, but that's all. That's about it for this section. There's nothing else that you should change. These should be the same. This can be lower, so anywhere from 300 to 350 is a really good place. I personally play on 350 because I like to laser out of the air. So a lot of times, if I put this on 300, I'll be like lagging behind on my shots, and that's probably just a personal problem that I'm having. But I like to use 350. So everything else, turning, extra, ramp up, delay, and you don't need any of this bullshit. Like, it's unnecessary. And other than that, that is about it for my ALC settings. We can go over Pro Optics as well. So if we're gonna have to do this on console separately, but for PC you can type in the values. This is 1, this is 1.05, 1.15, 1.2, 1.5, 1.4, 1.3. Alright, so the last thing I want to go over with you PC players is 120 FOV. So I'm gonna change right now. Right now I'm at 120 FOV. Okay, so this is what it looks like. Do you see how tiny he is? He's very small. Now I'm gonna go ahead and change my FOV back to 110. Look at how much bigger he got. And do you also see how much less you can see in the background? So 120 FOV makes a huge difference. Like, my movement feels so slow right now because I'm not on 120 FOV. But the minute I press F12, I'm at 120 FOV, and now my movement feels super clean. So 120 FOV is really nice because it eliminates recoil. There's like nothing. There's almost zero recoil. It's very easy to control on 120 FOV versus when you're using 110 FOV. It's still not that bad, but you have to pull down on your joystick a lot more than when you're using 120. So with 120 I can also I find it a lot easier to hit people from range. So if I'm using like an R301 or something and I'm sitting like all the way back up here, I find it significantly easier to land my shots. Like, it's really not that hard to control your recoil at this range. Alright, so that is the PC guide. Now let's continue on to the console settings. So console players, this is for you guys, okay? I wanted to especially make this for you, so I spent a lot of time on YouTube researching and just testing out my own settings on my PS4. I can't record on my PS4, so I can't really show you guys how it works on the PS4, but I can show you how well it works on PC, and I know that it literally will be the same on PS4, and actually it might feel a lot better on PS4. So let's go ahead and start changing these settings. Your dead zone needs to be 8%. Outer threshold 1%. Response curve, change this to 5. So these should be almost right next to each other. Yaw speed, keep it at 500. Pitch speed, anywhere from 300 to 350 is fine. Turning extra yaw, turn this up. Turn it up to 220. Turning extra pitch, turn this up. Turn this up to 90. ADS pitch and speed, so anywhere from 150 to 200 is a very good place. If you like having faster ADS sensitivity, I would stick to 180. 180 is a really good sweet spot. All this turning extra for ADS and ramp up time and stuff like that, unnecessary. Your pitch and yaw speed need to be the same. This will make it so that you're not overcompensating when you're shooting from range. So make sure these are the same. That way you don't mess up your shots. You should be pretty good with these settings. I can go ahead and show you guys what it feels like on PC. It's super sticky. Like, once you lock onto an enemy, you're gonna stick, and you're gonna stick everything. And not only that, if you guys suck with the wingman, you're gonna become a total god with the wingman. I don't know what it is about these settings, but like, I just cannot miss. Like, that's a lie, I just missed. But for the most part, when I'm in game, I find it so much easier to hit wingman shots. Like, I just don't know. It might be the dead zone, which is helpful, but you guys will become wingman gods just just by using these settings. R99. Let's go ahead and show some recoil with the R99. There really isn't much. The dead zone kind of helps a lot with this, because on controller, especially on console, you do need to have some dead zone, because the frame rate just isn't enough to compensate for it. So these should be really good for you console players, and these were my console settings when I was playing console like over a year ago. So with that being said, that is the end of today's video. There really aren't any other settings that I can really go over, so this might be my last settings guide. And unless I change my settings, which is highly unlikely because I really like my settings right now. So thank you so much for stopping by on the channel, and thank you guys for really supporting my ALC settings guides, and I will catch you guys in another video.